Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darylyn. I don't know what order all these videos that I filmed today are gonna come out in, but I didn't even bother to like change my shirt. Normally I would, but today I'm not going to. But anyway, I've had a lot of thoughts percolating in my little planty brain, so we're getting them all out on the internet today. And yeah, so today I want to talk about plants that I'm just done with. I guess we can call this like, these plants are canceled. Let's cancel some plants and trigger some people. If you're triggered by the word canceled, like, feel free to just click away. But what I will say though is that it's not that deep. Like, millennials use the word canceled very, very, very loosely and like very sarcastically. I do not have the power to cancel anything, okay? It's just supposed to be fun. We're having fun here. But what I will say is that this list, I have like very legitimate reasons for why I don't really recommend them and why I don't like them and why I think they're not super popular anymore. So let's just get into it. For your entertainment, these are like my most canceled plants of 2023. And the first one is the Philodendron Luxurians. Holy cow, you guys, Philodendron Luxurians. These are so stinking beautiful, like absolutely amazing. They basically look like a Philodendron gloriosum, but with like shimmery blue undertones to their leaves and like these really striking veins. And they're honestly like one of my favorite philodendrons to look at pictures of especially, but like 0 out of 10 as far as trying to keep these alive. And I don't recommend them. I really just don't. I have had a number of these. Like, I was determined to get one of these and like get it thriving. And I've tried over and over with them. And if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you've probably seen them in the past on here, maybe being like, oh my God, like it's alive, it lives, I must be special. Like, no. Because the same thing with them always happens. And that is, you get them in the early spring and they do pretty well. And then it doesn't matter what you do over the winter, they just decline. They're like a tricky plant to begin with because they really, really can't tolerate drying out. And even in semi-hydro, if the liquid level just falls a little bit too low, like they really start to suffer. And I have had issues with mine, like they're a crawling plant. I had a plant in pond. I've had issues with them, like the substrate not staying wet enough for them to like root into it as they crawl. They ship absolutely horribly. They acclimate from import absolutely horribly. And I still do have one. I think I like posted it was in a video that I made like a few months ago. I think it's like greenhouse updates. I think it might actually be the thumbnail. The naysayers on Philodendron Luxurians are absolutely correct. The Philodendron Luxurians slander is absolutely 100% justified. Like, these plants are extremely impossible to keep in any kind of reasonable environment. If you have like a big terrarium or like some sort of thing where like you can guarantee that they never run out of water and like their conditions stay exactly the same year round, like that is probably the conditions that I would imagine that these would thrive in. Like, I can't imagine what kind of like natural environment they live in a jungle, like somewhere where like there's got to be fluctuations in conditions. Like, I can't conceive of it. They're really freaking spectacular if you can get them to grow, but my experience is every year in the winter time, it doesn't matter what I do, they always decline. And like, before you say like, oh Darylyn, like you need to keep them warm and you need in the light and this, that, and the other thing, like I live in Southern California, like we don't really have winter here. It is rarely ever less than like 60 degrees in my house. And I had the plant I've had it in grow tents, I've had them in mini greenhouses, I've had them in cabinets, like you name it, like grow lights, like in water, in pond, like without fail, they always suffer over the winter time. So 0 out of 10. They're not cheap. They've definitely come down in recent years, but they're still not cheap. And like back in the day, they were super expensive. So if you really like the Philodendron Luxurians, there's some varieties of gloriosum that are, you know, they look really close. They're like 10,000 times easier. Actually, fun fact, the Philodendron luxurians was not even recognized as a separate species from the Philodendron gloriosum until like 2020. So, I mean, they're like practically like twinsies anyway. Highly recommend getting like some sort of cool gloriosum form. Leave the Philodendron luxurians for, I don't even know. Just don't, I wouldn't bother with it. Canceled. The next plant that I just like, don't recommend is the mint variegated Monstera adansonii, specifically the Indonesian mint form. This is the one that I'm familiar with, and like I will tell you my gripes with it momentarily. I don't know if it's the same with the other ones, but like my main issue with the mint adansonii is that the color when it comes in is really, really beautiful and vibrant, but then it fades down to almost be green. Like you really can't even see it. Like I will put up B-roll of what I'm talking about. I have like a small one right now that's like doing this. It just doesn't look good. Like in the long run, like once the color fades down, it just doesn't look good. And I found that these really prefer, like they do better in higher humidity. They just guzzle water. Like you have to put them on a pole, otherwise they don't do anything. Like it's just kind of like the classic, like, you know, houseplant gripes that normally like for a really spectacular plant, like I would deal with it. But because these don't hold their color and they just don't look good, like I'm not gonna do it. So these are honestly like so cheap now though, that like if you don't want to listen to me and you want to try it, like, I mean, go for it by all means. Like if you can figure out a way to keep their color, like for me, I had it on, you know, lights and like all the different things that you do. That's like honestly something that I think that the plant community like hasn't really reckoned with, is that there's a lot of plants out there that are advertised on social media as looking one way, but like then you don't actually find out that that's only what like the new leaves look like until you have it and you've already paid a bunch of money for it. So yeah, I don't recommend that one. I don't like it. The third one is like gonna break my little heart, but it's actually the strawberry shake. Whether or not like you objectively love strawberry shakes, like I objectively love them. I think they're great plants. Like I will extol their virtues forever and ever and always. They just have had a huge decline in popularity, in relevance. Nobody is buying them anymore. Like I see strawberry shakes go for sale in groups for like less than $50 all the time. I guess everybody who wanted one got one, you know, which is too bad because I think that they're wonderful plants. I think everybody should have one. They're way easier to grow than something like a pink princess. Like they just give you like really beautiful color. I love that the colors change as the leaves get older. If you put them under different kinds of light, you can get them to look really, really brilliant pink. I think they're amazing, but they've kind of like passed the point where they're really like had their moment, unfortunately. So if you are trying to get one, you can get them for cheap. I recommend it, but yeah, this plant, it's unfortunate, but like it's for now, like the plant community has spoken and the strawberry shake is kind of canceled. So the next one is Anthurium Luxurians. I personally never really loved the Anthurium Luxurians. I did at one point get one because they are really striking and they were ridiculously expensive when they first kind of hit the scene. Like I'm talking like hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars when they first came out. And a lot of people like really liked them. And one thing too about them is that they're really popular for hybridizing because they bloom and they hybridize really easily, but they just are like kind of finicky. They're difficult to get to take off. Like I got one and it just kind of like languished and like just never thrived, and eventually it just kind of hit the end of the road of like how much it could wither and rot, and like every time it pushed a new leaf it would just wither. I've heard from a lot of people that they get the Anthurium luxurians thinking it's going to be like really similar in care to like a crystallinum or a magnificum, and then they have a terrible time with it. So they've come down in price so much, and I still see them just sit in purges. I literally today saw somebody post one in a purge for like $50 and it looked okay, it looked fine, and like nobody wanted it. So Like the popularity and the covetedness of Anthurium Luxurians is absolutely like fallen off a cliff. It's wild because those, I remember when those came out, maybe in like 2020 was when they first started getting like shown on by influencers and shown like around on social media, and people like started ordering them and Equigenera stocked them. It was like, it's been a crazy fast decline. Those didn't stick at all in the community. If you have one, that's amazing. Good for you. Because they are really beautiful when they're grown out and they're thriving. But like, I don't know anybody who has one that's like grown out and thriving. And the demand for them is just like not there. So like objectively, there's just been a huge decline. The next one is the Philodendron Majestic. Like these are still kind of popular. Like people still will buy these. Like if you post them in a purge, like people will buy them. This is the Philodendron Soderoy X Philodendron Verrucosum hybrid. But the reason that I got rid of mine, I like don't have them anymore, and I didn't end up liking the plant, is because the thing about them that's really striking and like what they're known for is like the silver variegation on them, and they lose it as they mature. You have to, in order to keep the silver coloring that like is the reason that they're so beautiful, like you have to keep cutting them back and you have to keep them small, which I'm like, that's lame. I don't like, that's not what I signed up for. I want like a giant version of that. I want something that's the size of this Philodendron Glorious with the silver variegation. I mean, I think that is like kind of like BS, honestly. And this is another example of a plant where like the characteristics get kind of like floated around social media, and you think that you're getting one thing, and then like surprise, like the color doesn't stay forever, unfortunately. So if you are interested in a Philodendron Majestic, like just be aware that the silver variegation eventually, like once the plant matures, it's not gonna have the silver color on it anymore. So that's why, to me, in my personal opinion, that plant is canceled and I don't have it anymore. Another one, Hoya Heuschkeliana. Don't come for me, but like low key, like Hoya in general, they're just not as like coveted as they used to be. Like everybody used to be into Hoya, and like now I don't see it as much. Like if I'm incorrect about that, like please let me know in the comments. But like specifically Hoya Heuschkeliana, like these, the variegated ones, these were the absolute the pinnacle of Hoya a couple of years ago. Everybody wanted these. They were super expensive. They were a couple $100s to get like a little tiny like node cutting back in the day. Yeah, they're really beautiful and they sunstress pink and it's really cute. And I was very, very fortunate. I was gifted cuttings, not once, but twice from 2 different people. I could just never get the plant to thrive. I mean, when you have a plant that's so variegated that it literally only has like a little tiny bit of green on each leaf, and that's just the way the plant is supposed to be. I mean, you're asking for it to be like difficult to keep happy, because like that would just be so prone to rot. But like these were like the top of everyone's wish list, and then like now we never see anyone talk about them. Like it's like they disappeared. Hoya Heuschkeliana, who? It's wild. That one I'm like, I feel like pretty confident in saying like that one's canceled. Like that one's like, it's never gonna be like that again, I don't think. I think probably a lot of people had similar experiences to me where they like just rotted and rotted and rotted the same plant multiple times, and they just gave up. Another one, Syngonium Strawberry Ice. These were like a couple $100s back in the day. And to be fair, like not all Syngonium Strawberry Ices are created equally. Like there are some that are absolutely spectacular that look amazing, and then there are others that just look kind of like muddy and brown. But back in the day, like these used to be a couple $100s to get. The fall was swift, I think, because I've seen a few of them for sale recently, like rooted little plants that like in 2021 would have been a few $100, go for like $30. That is a steal. If you see Syngonium Strawberry Ice or any like really pretty colorful Syngonium, like the Milk Confetti or like any of those different ones, and they're only asking like 30 or 40 bucks for it, like buy that, because those are beautiful. Like that to me blows my mind. That to me is just like a consequence of the market just shifting, because there's absolutely nothing wrong. Like those plants didn't do anything wrong. Like they're so beautiful. So I actually saw one in a group for really cheap, and I should have bought bought it. I regret not buying it every day, but I didn't buy it because I knew somebody else in the group was looking for it. And so I messaged her and was like, hey, like you should buy this. But I do kind of regret not just buying it for myself because it was a really nice one. I guess that brings us to our last entry on this list of plants that are canceled, aka I don't like them. And that is the Epipremnum pennatum albo. These had like their moment for a while back when Albo monstera was still really expensive and people were like, oh my God, it's so similar to an Albo monstera and like they're beautiful, and they are beautiful, but they're really hard to size up. You really have to have a lot of humidity. They grow like absolute weeds. Like they grow like a pothos. You could easily get to the point where you have like a full hanging basket of Epipremnum pennatum albo, but that's just not really like what I imagine most people signed up for when they get that plant. Like they want it to climb and fenestrate and become, you know, like an Albo monstera basically. I never see these for sale anymore. And when I do see them for sale, it's always for like $12 for a cutting and then nobody buys it. It's wild. I actually have so many just like vines of these. I let them go wild in my grow tent and they're growing everywhere. It's out of control. I probably need to clean out my grow tent and like get rid of some of them. Nobody is buying those anymore. So anyway, that concludes my little rant about plants I don't like. Do you have any that you'd like to add to the list of plants that used to be cool and popular and that are now like nobody wants? Like you can't give them away? If so, leave them in the comments. I'm super curious because I kind of focus very, very much on like specific genuses. Like I'm really like a philodendron and anthurium kind of girl, and monstera a little bit. Hoya like barely at all. Begonia never. So I'm super interested to hear like if you guys know of other ones. Give me the tea. Send all the piping hot tea my way. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me for today. I'll see you later. Oh, also, like if you leave rude comments, I'm going to block you because I ain't got no time for that. All right, so on that note, that's gonna be it for me for today. I will see you in my next one. Bye.